"You gonna stand up and make me?" Tyler sneered, leaning down until his vodka breath hit Marcus's face. Every phone at the prom was already recording. The cripple joke hung in the air like a loaded gun. Marcus's hands tightened on his wheels. Nobody here knew he was a ranked wheelchair boxing champion. But Tyler was about to find out. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one. And you don't want to miss it. Now, let's begin. Marcus had learned long ago that people saw the chair before they saw him. They saw limitations, pity, inspiration, porn for their Instagram stories. What they didn't see were the calloused knuckles hidden beneath his tailored prom tuxedo, or the surgical precision he'd developed in the ring, a precision that had earned him the nickname The Reaper in wheelchair boxing circuits across 3 states. Tonight was supposed to be different. His mother had spent 2 weeks altering the midnight blue tuxedo to fit perfectly around his seated frame, her careful hands making sure every line fell just right. "You're going to be the most handsome young man there," she'd whispered that morning, adjusting his bow tie with tears threatening to spill from her eyes. She didn't say what they both knew, that this was his first real social event since the accident 2 years ago. The accident that had stolen his legs, but somehow, paradoxically, given him purpose. The Westside High Gymnasium had been transformed into something from a fairy tale. Silver and gold balloons clustered at every corner, string lights crisscrossing the ceiling like captured starlight, a DJ booth pulsing with bass that Marcus felt through his wheels. Couples swayed on the dance floor, their rented tuxedos and shimmering gowns moving in rhythm to some pop song Marcus didn't recognize. The air smelled of cheap cologne, expensive perfume, and the particular anxiety that comes with being 17 and trying desperately to matter. Marcus wheeled himself through the entrance, his best friend Dante walking beside him in a burgundy suit that somehow made him look both nervous and confident. Dante had been there the day of the accident, the car crash that had killed Marcus's father and shattered his spine. He'd been there through the surgeries, the physical therapy, the dark months when Marcus couldn't see a future beyond his hospital bed. And he'd been there the day Marcus's therapist had suggested adaptive sports, the day everything changed. "You good, man?" Dante asked, his hand briefly touching Marcus's shoulder. Marcus nodded, though his jaw was tight. His eyes scanned the crowd, looking for her. Jasmine Robertson, the girl from AP Literature who actually talked to him like he was a person, not a tragedy. She'd said maybe she'd see him here. Maybe they'd dance. He'd practiced with his physical therapist, learning how to move his chair in rhythm, how to hold someone's hand while wheeling in circles. It had felt ridiculous at the time. Now it felt like hope. But hope was a fragile thing in a place like Westside High. Well, well, well. The voice sliced through Marcus's thoughts like a blade. Look what rolled in. Tyler Brennan. Of course. The quarterback, the golden boy. The kind of guy who peaked in high school and would spend the rest of his life reliving these mediocre glory days. He stood near the punch bowl with his crew, Chad, Brett, and Mason, all variations of the same entitled template. Their dates, cheerleaders with practiced smiles, stood slightly behind them, already looking uncomfortable. Marcus felt his shoulders tense, muscle memory from a lifetime of fights he never asked for but always finished. In the ring, that tension was power. Here, it was vulnerability. "Didn't know they made wheelchairs prom accessible," Tyler continued, stepping closer. His breath already smelled like the vodka someone's older brother had probably smuggled in. "That's so inspiring, Marcus. Really brave of you to show up." The word inspiring landed like a slur. Marcus had heard it 1,000 times, always dripping with condescension, always reducing his entire existence to a motivational poster for able-bodied people who wanted to feel better about their own lives. "Just here for the music," Marcus said evenly, his voice steady despite the heat crawling up his neck. In the ring, his coach had taught him to stay calm, to let opponents waste their energy on emotions. "You should try the dance floor, Tyler. Heard they're playing something with actual rhythm. Might be challenging for you." A few people nearby laughed, nervous, uncertain laughs that died quickly when Tyler's face darkened. "You got jokes now?" Tyler stepped directly in front of Marcus's chair, blocking his path. The lights overhead cast shadows across his face, making him look older, meaner. "That's cute. Hey guys, the cripple's got jokes." Marcus's hands gripped his wheel rims. He could feel Dante tensing beside him, ready to jump in, but this wasn't Dante's fight. This had never been anyone's fight but his own. "Move," Marcus said quietly. Not a request, a statement. "Or what?" Tyler leaned down, bringing his face level with Marcus's. "You gonna stand up and make me?" The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Marcus felt every eye in the immediate vicinity turn toward them. He saw phones coming out, cameras ready to capture whatever happened next, social media currency, viral content. Someone's humiliation turned into someone else's entertainment. What would you do if someone challenged your dignity in front of everyone you knew? Drop your thoughts below. This was the moment Marcus had feared, not the bullying itself. He'd endured worse in middle school, before the accident, when his blackness alone had been enough to make him a target. But this combination, disability plus race plus public spectacle, felt like standing naked in front of a firing squad. "Tyler, man, come on." One of the cheerleaders, a girl named Amanda, tugged at Tyler's sleeve. "Let's just go dance." "In a minute," Tyler said, not breaking eye contact with Marcus. "I'm having a conversation here about accessibility and knowing your place." The words hung in the air like poison gas. Marcus felt something shift inside him, not anger, not yet, something colder, more focused. It was the same feeling he got in the ring when an opponent made a mistake, left an opening, showed their weakness. Tyler thought he was invincible here, protected by social hierarchies and able-bodied privilege. He had no idea who he was dealing with, but Marcus wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of seeing him break. "Not here, not like this. My place," Marcus said slowly, "is anywhere I want to be, including here. Now move or I'll move you." Tyler laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "How? You gonna run me over with your little—" "Tyler!" The voice cut through the tension like a knife. Everyone turned. Jasmine Robertson stood 10 feet away in a dress the color of midnight, her hair swept up in an elegant twist, her eyes blazing with an anger that made Tyler actually take a step back. She walked forward with the kind of confidence that came from being valedictorian, student body president, and someone who genuinely didn't care about social hierarchies. "Are you seriously doing this?" she asked, her voice carrying across the gym. "At prom? Really?" "We were just talking," Tyler said, suddenly defensive. "No, you were being a garbage human being," Jasmine corrected. She walked past Tyler without another glance and stopped directly in front of Marcus's chair. "Hey, Marcus, want to dance?" Marcus stared at her. In the colored lights, she looked like something from a dream he'd been too afraid to have. Her hand was extended toward him, waiting, not helping, offering. "Yeah," he said, his voice rougher than he intended. "I'd like that." He took her hand, and together they moved toward the dance floor, leaving Tyler standing by the punch bowl with his mouth hanging open and his power completely neutralized. Dante followed behind them, grinning like he'd just witnessed a miracle. The DJ had switched to something slower, a ballad that Marcus vaguely recognized. Jasmine held his hand gently as he positioned his chair, and then they were moving, not in any traditional sense, but moving nonetheless. She swayed. He wheeled in small circles, their hands connected like a promise that not everything was broken in the world. "Thank you," Marcus said quietly, looking up at her. "For what?" Jasmine asked, her smile soft. "I wanted to dance with you anyway. Tyler just gave me a good entrance." "Still, you didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." Her expression grew serious. "Nobody gets to treat you like that. Nobody." Marcus felt something crack open in his chest. Not pain, but its opposite. The possibility of being seen. Really seen. Not as a wheelchair, not as a tragedy, not as inspiration. Just as Marcus. They danced through 2 more songs before Jasmine's friends called her over for photos. She squeezed his hand before leaving, promising to find him later. Marcus watched her go, feeling lighter than he had in months. "Bro, that was smooth," Dante said, appearing at his elbow with 2 cups of punch. Tyler looked like he wanted to die. "He'll get over it," Marcus said, though he knew better. Guys like Tyler didn't get over humiliation. They festered, they planned, They waited for the perfect moment to strike back. Marcus had about 2 hours before that moment arrived. The next hour passed in a blur of music, laughter, and the strange, electric feeling of actually belonging somewhere. Marcus stayed mostly on the edges of the dance floor, occasionally wheeling into the center when a song he liked came on. Jasmine kept finding him between photo sessions with her friends, sitting on his lap for pictures, her arm draped casually over his shoulders like it was the most natural thing in the world. Each time she did it, Marcus felt Tyler's eyes burning into them from across the gym. The prom committee had set up a photo booth near the back, one of those fancy ones with props and instant prints. Jasmine dragged Marcus over around 9 o'clock, Dante trailing behind them with a girl he'd been talking to all night, someone from the debate team with sharp eyes and a sharper smile. "Come on," Jasmine said, her hand warm in his. "We need documentation of this night." They crammed into the booth, or rather, Marcus wheeled in, and Jasmine perched on the arm of his chair, leaning close. The first flash caught them laughing. The second caught Jasmine kissing his cheek, while Marcus looked genuinely shocked. The third caught them both staring at the camera with exaggerated, serious faces, Jasmine throwing up a peace sign. When the photos printed, Marcus stared at them. In the images, he looked happy. Not wheelchair boy at prom happy, just happy. Like any other 17-year-old kid experiencing something good. "I want copies," Jasmine said, tucking one strip into her small purse. "Yeah, me too," Marcus said softly. They were headed back toward the main floor when Principal Matthews took the stage, tapping the microphone to get everyone's attention. The music faded, and the crowd turned toward the front of the gym where a small platform had been set up. "Ladies and gentlemen," Principal Matthews said in that overly enthusiastic voice administrators used when trying to seem relatable. "It's time for our prom king and queen announcement." The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. He knew exactly how this would go. Tyler and his girlfriend Madison would win. They'd have their moment, and everyone would applaud the most predictable outcome possible. Sure enough, after a dramatic pause, "Your prom king is Tyler Brennan?" More cheers. Tyler swaggered up to the stage, accepting his plastic crown with a grin that looked almost genuine. He waved to the crowd like a politician, soaking in the attention. "And your prom queen is Jasmine Robertson." Marcus's head snapped toward Jasmine. She looked genuinely surprised, her hand flying to her mouth. Her friends pushed her forward, squealing with excitement. She walked to the stage with grace, accepting her tiara and bouquet of roses. And then Marcus watched his good evening start to curdle. Tyler and Jasmine were supposed to share a dance. Tradition dictated it. The DJ started playing some romantic ballad, and Tyler extended his hand to Jasmine with an exaggerated bow. She took it with a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes, and they moved to the center of the floor. Everyone formed a circle around them, phones out, recording. Marcus stayed at the edge, his hands gripping his wheel rims a little too tightly. The dance lasted maybe 30 seconds before Tyler leaned in and whispered something in Jasmine's ear. Marcus saw her expression change, saw the smile freeze, then drop completely. She tried to pull away, but Tyler held her hand firmly, still swaying, still smiling for the cameras. When the song ended, Jasmine stepped back immediately and walked off the dance floor without the customary photo op. Tyler stood there for a moment, his smile finally cracking, before he was swarmed by his friends who clapped him on the back and handed him what was definitely not punch in that red cup. Marcus wheeled over to where Jasmine stood near the refreshment table. Her arms wrapped around herself despite the warmth of the gym. "You okay?" he asked. She looked at him, and for the first time that night, he saw real anger in her eyes. He said, God, it doesn't even matter what he said. He's trash. They're all trash. "What did he say, Jazz?" She shook her head. "Just some comment about how it was charitable of me to hang out with you, how I should stop slumming and remember where I belong. Like, we're in the 1950s, and there are actual social hierarchies that matter." She paused, then added quietly, "He also said some things about you that I won't repeat." Marcus felt the familiar heat rising in his chest. Not the explosive anger of someone out of control, but the cold, calculated fury he'd learned to channel in the ring. Every punch he'd ever thrown had been backed by this feeling, the righteous rage of someone who was tired of being underestimated. "It's fine," he said, though it wasn't. "It's not fine," Jasmine insisted. "None of this is fine. I'm sorry, Marcus. You deserved a better night than this." "Hey," he reached up and took her hand. "This night has been good, great even, because of you. Don't let Tyler ruin that." She squeezed his hand, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. "You're right. Screw him. Want to get some air? It's hot in here." They made their way toward the side exit that led to the courtyard, a small outdoor space the school used for lunch periods when the weather was nice. The door was propped open, cool April air flowing in, carrying the scent of fresh-cut grass and possibility. Marcus had just reached the threshold when he heard Tyler's voice behind them. "Hey, Jasmine, running away with your charity case?" Marcus felt Jasmine's hand tighten on his shoulder. He turned his chair around. Tyler stood 15 feet away, flanked by Chad and Brett. His crown sat crooked on his head, his bow tie was loosened, and his eyes had that unfocused shine that came from too much smuggled vodka and too little sense. "Go away, Tyler," Jasmine said, her voice tired. "You won. You got your crown. Just leave us alone." "Won?" Tyler laughed, stumbling slightly. "I didn't win anything. I got stuck dancing with a queen who'd rather be with a—" "Finish that sentence," Marcus said quietly, "and see what happens." The courtyard had gone silent. Other students had started filtering outside for air, and now they formed an inadvertent audience. Marcus could see phones coming out again, could feel the moment crystallizing into something that would be replayed and dissected on social media for days. Tyler's smile widened. "Or what, Wheels? You gonna roll over my foot, maybe bump into my shin?" He turned to his friends. "Should I be scared, guys? I'm feeling really threatened right now." Chad and Brett laughed on cue, though their laughter sounded forced. Even drunk and stupid, they could sense something shifting in the air. Marcus wheeled forward slowly, deliberately. "You know what your problem is, Tyler?" "Enlighten me," Tyler said, spreading his arms wide. "You think being able to walk makes you powerful," Marcus said. "You think this," he gestured to his wheelchair, "makes me weak. You see this chair, and you think you understand everything about me." "I understand enough," Tyler shot back. "I understand you're not supposed to be here. This is prom. People are supposed to be dancing, having fun, not worried about whether the floor is flat enough for your wheels or if—" He didn't get to finish. Marcus moved faster than anyone expected. One sharp turn of his wheels brought him directly in front of Tyler, close enough that the other boy had to stumble backward. "You want to know what I do, Tyler?" Marcus asked, his voice carrying across the courtyard. "When I'm not being inspirational for you? When I'm not being your charity case or your pity party?" Tyler's smirk faltered slightly. I box," Marcus said simply. "Wheelchair boxing. I'm ranked 3rd in the state for my weight class. I've won 7 tournaments in the last 18 months. They call me the Reaper, because when I step into that ring, I don't lose." The courtyard had gone completely silent. Even the music from inside seemed to fade. "Bullshit," Tyler said, but his voice had lost its confidence. "My shoulders?" Marcus continued, rolling up his sleeves to reveal arms that were corded with muscle, not the vanity muscles of someone who posed in gym mirrors, but the functional, dangerous strength of an athlete who'd rebuilt himself from nothing. "I use them for everything. Lifting myself, pushing these wheels, and throwing punches that have put guys twice your size on the mat. Have you ever watched someone completely misread a situation? Tell us about a time someone underestimated you below." Tyler's face had gone pale, but he was too drunk and too committed to back down now. "So what? You want to fight me? Here? You think anyone's going to let a cripple—" The word hung in the air like a grenade. And Marcus smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who'd been waiting for this exact moment, this exact permission. "Actually," Marcus said softly, "yeah, that's exactly what I want." He wheeled back slightly, giving himself space. "You've been talking all night, Tyler, all year, really, about what I can't do, what I shouldn't do, where I don't belong. So here's your chance. You want to prove you're better than me? Prove it, right here, right now." "Marcus, don't," Jasmine said, but there was something in her voice. Not fear, but anticipation. She'd seen the videos. his mother had shown her on the drive over, proud parent that she was. Jasmine knew what Marcus was capable of. Tyler looked around at the crowd, at his friends, at the phones recording everything. He was trapped. Walking away now would be social suicide, but something in Marcus's eyes, that cold, focused intensity, was making him deeply nervous. "Fine," Tyler said, trying to sound confident, "but when you get hurt, don't blame me. I was just defending myself." "Of course," Marcus said. "Self-defense, against a guy in a wheelchair. Very brave." Tyler lunged. It was sloppy, telegraphed, exactly what Marcus expected from someone with no training and too much alcohol. Tyler came in high, reaching for Marcus's shoulders, probably planning to shake him or shove him or do something that would look tough on camera. Marcus didn't waste time. His right hand shot out in a compact, devastating jab that caught Tyler square in the solar plexus. The air left Tyler's lungs in a whoosh. Before he could recover, Marcus followed with a left hook to the ribs, precise, surgical, placed exactly where he knew it would hurt most. Tyler doubled over, gasping. "Get up," Marcus said calmly. "You wanted this." Tyler straightened, his face red, tears threatening at the corners of his eyes. He swung wildly, a haymaker with no technique behind it. Marcus simply rolled backward in his chair, letting the momentum carry Tyler forward and off balance. Another jab. This one caught Tyler's jaw with a sharp crack that echoed across the courtyard. Tyler went down. The crowd exploded. Shouts, screams, the chaotic sound of everyone trying to process what they'd just witnessed. Chad and Brett moved forward, but Dante stepped between them and Marcus, his posture making it clear that anyone who tried to jump in would have to go through him first. Tyler lay on the concrete, blood trickling from his lip, his crown rolling away into the darkness. He looked up at Marcus with something that might have been respect or might have been fear, probably both. Marcus wheeled closer, leaning down so only Tyler could hear. "Never," he said quietly. "Call me a cripple again." Then he straightened, turned his chair, and wheeled back toward the gym entrance. The crowd parted for him like water. Jasmine fell into step beside him, her hand finding his shoulder. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Behind them, Principal Matthews was running outside, demanding to know what happened, threatening suspensions and police. But Marcus had been defending himself. Everyone's phones had caught Tyler swinging first. Self-defense, just like Tyler had said. The gymnasium doors closed behind them, muffling the chaos. Inside, the DJ was still playing, oblivious to the drama that had just unfolded. The colored lights still spun, the balloons still bobbed from the ceiling. Marcus stopped his chair near the center of the dance floor, his hands shaking slightly from adrenaline. "That was—" Jasmine started, then stopped. "Are you okay?" Marcus looked at his hands, the same hands that had just defended his dignity, his humanity, his right to exist in a space that had tried to reject him. They were steady now, strong. "Yeah," he said, "I'm okay." And for the first time in 2 years, since the accident, since the hospital, since the day his entire world had been rebuilt from broken pieces, he actually meant it. The next 20 minutes were chaos. Principal Matthews had pulled Marcus into the hallway outside the gym, along with Tyler, who was holding an ice pack to his jaw and refusing to make eye contact. Jasmine stood beside Marcus, her arms crossed, while Dante leaned against the wall nearby, ready to provide testimony if needed. "I want to understand exactly what happened," Principal Matthews said, his voice tight with the particular stress of an administrator whose carefully planned event had just imploded. He was in his 50s, graying at the temples, wearing a suit that looked like it had been ironed an hour ago and had somehow already wrinkled. "Tyler attacked him," Jasmine said before Marcus could speak. Marcus defended himself. "There are about 50 videos to prove it." "That's not," Tyler started, but his friend Brett, who'd been pulled in as a witness, cut him off. "Dude, just stop," Brett said quietly. "Everyone saw. You swung first." Tyler's face reddened, but he stayed silent. Principal Matthews rubbed his temples. "Tyler, you need to go to the nurse's office, have someone look at that lip. Marcus, I need you to wait here while I review the footage and speak with other witnesses." "He's not in trouble, right?" Jasmine asked sharply. "Because if you're thinking of punishing him for defending himself—" "Miss Robertson, I'm not making any decisions until I have all the facts," Matthews interrupted, though his tone suggested he already knew how this would play out. Please just wait here." He disappeared back into the gym, leaving Marcus, Jasmine, and Dante in the fluorescent-lit hallway. The muffled bass from inside pulsed through the walls like a heartbeat. Tyler stood 30 feet away with Chad, both of them whispering furiously. Every few seconds, Tyler would glance over at Marcus with an expression that mixed humiliation, anger, and something else, something that looked almost like disbelief, as if he still couldn't process what had just happened. "You good?" Dante asked Marcus quietly. Marcus nodded, though his hands were still trembling slightly. Not from fear, from the aftershock of violence, the adrenaline that was slowly draining from his system. In the ring, he had protocols for this. Cool-down exercises, breathing techniques. Here, he just had to sit in a high school hallway and wait for adults to decide whether defending his dignity was somehow punishable. "That was the most badass thing I've ever seen," Jasmine said, and when Marcus looked at her, she was smiling. Not the polite, social smile she'd worn during the prom queen ceremony, but something genuine and fierce. "Seriously, the look on his face when you hit him? I wish I could frame it." "I didn't want to fight him," Marcus said. "I know, but he didn't give you a choice." She sat down on the floor beside his chair, her expensive dress pooling around her. "He's been like this all year. To everyone. But especially to anyone he thinks he can dominate. You just showed him he can't." Marcus leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling tiles. "My mom's going to kill me." "Your mom," Dante interjected, "is going to be proud, trust me." Before Marcus could respond, the gym doors opened and a group of students spilled out, some heading to bathrooms, others just taking a break from the heat and noise. Several of them stopped when they saw Marcus, and he braced himself for whatever was coming. "Yo, Marcus!" One of them, a kid named Jordan from his English class, approached with a wide grin. "That was insane! Where'd you learn to throw hands like that?" "I box," Marcus said simply. "No way, like, competitively?" "Yeah, wheelchair boxing." Jordan's eyes widened. "That's a thing? That's actually a thing?" "Has been for years," Dante said, jumping in. "Marcus is ranked in the state. Show him your record, man." Marcus pulled out his phone, navigated to his boxing club's Instagram page, and showed Jordan some clips, training videos, tournament highlights, the moment he'd won his last championship, and his coach had lifted his arms in victory while Marcus sat in his chair, gloves raised, sweat pouring down his face. "Holy shit," Jordan breathed. "This is you. Why doesn't anyone know about this?" Marcus shrugged. "Never came up. People don't usually ask what I do, they just assume." More students had gathered now, drawn by the conversation. Someone asked to see more videos. Someone else asked about the training. A girl from Marcus's history class asked if she could share his Instagram to her story. "This is wild," she said, scrolling through his profile. "You've got like 300 followers. You should have thousands. This content is fire." Marcus felt something strange happening. Attention, yes, but not the pitying kind he'd grown accustomed to. These were people genuinely impressed by his skill, his dedication, his achievements. Not inspired by his mere existence, but actually respecting what he'd built. Tyler watched all of this from his position down the hall, his expression growing darker. Principal Matthews emerged from the gym 20 minutes later with his phone in hand. "I've reviewed multiple recordings of the incident," he said formally. "Mr. Brennan, you initiated physical contact. Mr. Williams responded with what appears to be appropriate self-defense." He paused, looking directly at Tyler. "You're suspended for 3 days, effective Monday. Your parents have been called." "What?" Tyler exploded. "That's bullshit. He's the one who—" "The footage is clear," Matthews interrupted. "You instigated. You threw the first punch. The fact that Mr. Williams was able to defend himself effectively doesn't change who started the altercation." He turned to Marcus. "Mr. Williams, you're free to return to the prom if you wish, though I'd understand if you'd prefer to go home." Marcus looked at Jasmine, who raised her eyebrows. "Your call." "I'm staying," Marcus said. "I paid for my ticket. I'm going to dance." A small smile crossed Matthew's face. "Fair enough. Everyone back inside, please. And Mr. Brennan, you need to leave campus. Your father is on his way." Tyler stood there for a moment, his crownless head bowed, his prom night in ruins. As he turned to leave, he stopped beside Marcus's chair. "This isn't over," he said quietly, so only Marcus could hear. Yeah, Marcus replied, meeting his eyes. It is. Tyler left, Chad trailing behind him like a lost puppy. The hallway seemed brighter without them in it. Back inside the gym, something had shifted. Word had spread, not just about the fight, but about who Marcus actually was. As he wheeled back onto the dance floor with Jasmine, people approached him differently, not with pity or awkward inspiration, but with genuine curiosity and respect. A sophomore from the wrestling team wanted to know about his training regimen. A senior who ran track asked about adaptive sports programs. Someone's girlfriend asked if he gave lessons because she'd always wanted to learn boxing but felt intimidated by traditional gyms. Marcus answered their questions, showed them videos, exchanged Instagram handles. Dante stood nearby, grinning like he'd just watched his best friend become famous. "You realize what just happened, right?" Dante said during a quiet moment. "You just became the most interesting person at this school." "I've always been interesting," Marcus shot back. "People just weren't paying attention." True that. Jasmine returned from the bathroom, where she'd gone to fix her makeup. Some of it had smeared during the chaos. She'd also let her hair down, the elegant updo abandoned in favor of natural curls that framed her face. "Better?" she asked, doing a small spin. "Perfect," Marcus said, and meant it. The DJ announced a slow song, some ballad Marcus vaguely recognized from the radio. Couples paired off, swaying in the dim lights. Jasmine extended her hand. "May I have this dance? No interruptions this time?" Marcus took her hand, and they moved to the center of the floor. She rested one hand on his shoulder while he held her other hand in his. He wheeled slowly in small circles, and she moved with him, following his lead in a way that felt natural and uncontrived. "Can I ask you something?" Jasmine said softly. "Yeah? Does it ever get easier? People staring, people judging, all of it?" Marcus considered this. Around them, other couples danced, but he barely noticed them anymore. "Not easier exactly, but you get better at deciding which opinions matter. Most people's don't." "And mine?" She smiled slightly. "Does mine matter?" "Yours," he said, looking up at her. "Matters a lot." She leaned down and kissed him, not on the cheek like in the photo booth, but on the lips. Soft, brief, perfect. When she pulled back, her eyes were bright. "Good answer," she whispered. They danced through 3 more songs before Principal Matthews announced last call for photos. The prom was winding down, and students were starting to filter out toward the parking lot where limos and parents' cars waited. Marcus wheeled toward the exit with Jasmine and Dante, feeling lighter than he had in months. The night hadn't gone how he'd expected. It had been harder, messier, more complicated, but it had also been real. He'd stood up for himself, literally fought for his right to exist in that space, and he'd won. They were almost to the door when Marcus's phone buzzed, a text from his mother. "How's prom, baby? Having a good time?" He smiled, typing back, "Better than I expected. Tell you about it when I get home." Another buzz, this time from an unknown number. Marcus frowned, opening it. "Enjoy your victory lap, Wheels. But remember, you put your hands on me. That's assault. My dad's a lawyer. We'll see who wins when this goes to court." "Tyler." "Of course." Marcus stared at the message, feeling his good mood start to crack. Tyler was rich, connected, the kind of kid whose parents could afford expensive lawyers and knew how to work the system. Even with video evidence showing Tyler had attacked first, there were ways to spin it. Ways to make Marcus look like the aggressor. Ways to turn self-defense into assault. "Marcus, you okay?" Jasmine asked, noticing his expression. He showed her the phone. Her face hardened. "He's bluffing. There's no way any lawyer would take that case with all the video evidence." "Maybe," Marcus said. "But even if he's bluffing, he's going to make my life hell. Tyler doesn't forget. He doesn't forgive. He's going to come after me in every way he can." Dante leaned over to read the message. "So let him try. You've got witnesses, you've got video, you've got the truth." Marcus wanted to believe that truth mattered, that evidence and justice would prevail. But he'd been black in America long enough to know that truth was often negotiable, that justice bent toward those with power and money. What would you do if someone threatened legal action after you defended yourself? Drop your thoughts below. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself against unfair odds? Still, He wasn't going to let Tyler ruin what was left of this night. He locked his phone and slipped it into his jacket pocket. "Forget him," Marcus said, more to convince himself than anyone else. "Tonight was good. I'm not letting him take that away." They stepped out into the cool night air. The parking lot was half empty now, filled with the sounds of car engines starting and friends shouting goodbyes. Marcus's mother's van was parked near the accessible entrance, and he could see her waiting in the driver's seat, scrolling through her phone. "Thanks for tonight," Marcus said to Jasmine, "for everything, for defending me, for dancing with me, for just seeing me." "Marcus," she said seriously, taking both his hands, "I didn't do you any favors tonight. You deserved to be at prom. You deserved respect. I just refused to pretend otherwise." She paused, then added, "Plus, that kiss was entirely selfish. I've wanted to do that for weeks." Marcus felt his face heat. "Yeah? Yeah," she grinned. "So maybe we could do it again sometime? Like an actual date, not just prom?" "I'd like that," Marcus said softly. She kissed him again, longer this time, sweet and promising, before her friends called her over to their waiting car. She squeezed his hand once more and walked away, glancing back twice with a smile that made Marcus's chest feel too full. "Bro," Dante said, shaking his head in wonder, "you just had the most dramatic, insane, legendary prom night in West Side High history. And you got the girl. What even is your life right now?" Marcus laughed. "I have no idea." They fist bumped, and Dante headed toward his mom's car. Marcus wheeled over to the van, where his mother had gotten out and was opening the side door with the ramp. "Hey, baby," she said, smiling warmly. "How was it?" Marcus looked back at the gym, at the lights still twinkling inside, at the students still laughing and taking photos in the parking lot. He thought about Tyler's threat, about the videos circulating online, about Jasmine's kiss and the way people had looked at him, not with pity, but with respect. "It was complicated," he said finally, "but good, really good." His mother studied his face, and something in her expression suggested she knew there was more to the story, but she didn't push. "Well, you look happy. That's all that matters to me." Marcus wheeled up the ramp into the van, and his mother secured his chair with practiced efficiency. As they drove away from West Side High, Marcus pulled out his phone and scrolled through his notifications. His Instagram had blown up, hundreds of new followers, dozens of comments on his boxing videos, messages from people at school, and from strangers who'd seen clips of the fight. One message stood out from his boxing coach. "Just saw the video. Nice form. But we need to talk about ring discipline versus street fighting. Monday, 6 a.m. Don't be late." Marcus smiled. Even his coach was turning this into a teaching moment. But underneath the notifications, underneath the attention and the drama, Marcus felt something deeper settling into his bones. He'd defended himself tonight, not just physically, but existentially. He'd refused to be diminished, refused to accept the limitations others tried to place on him. And tomorrow, when the sun rose and social media had moved on to the next viral moment, he'd still be Marcus Williams. Boxer, student, someone who was building a life that mattered, one punch and one choice at a time. The question was, what would Tyler do next? And more importantly, was Marcus ready for whatever came after? Monday morning arrived like a reckoning. Marcus's alarm went off at 5:15 a.m., early enough to get to the gym for his coach's mandatory meeting. He'd barely slept, his mind replaying the prom night over and over, analyzing every moment, every decision, every potential consequence. The weekend had been a whirlwind. The videos had gone viral, not just at school, but beyond. Local news had picked up the story. Wheelchair boxing champion defends himself at prom. His Instagram had exploded to over 15,000 followers. Interview requests had flooded his DMs. His mother's phone had rung nonstop with reporters, proud relatives, and concerned parents from school. But underneath all the attention, Tyler's threat hung like a storm cloud. Marcus transferred from his bed to his wheelchair with practiced efficiency, the morning routine so automatic he could do it half asleep. His room was covered in boxing memorabilia, tournament medals hanging from his bulletin board, photos of him with his coach and teammates, a pair of signed gloves from a professional adaptive boxer who'd visited their gym last year. His mother was already up, making breakfast in the kitchen. The smell of eggs and turkey bacon filled their small apartment. "You sure you want to go to the gym this morning?" she asked when Marcus wheeled in. "Coach would understand if you needed a day." "I need normal," Marcus said, accepting the plate she handed him. "I need something that makes sense." His mother sat across from him, her nurse's scrubs already on for her shift at County General. She'd worked double shifts all weekend to avoid dealing with the media chaos, but Marcus could see the worry in her eyes. "Baby, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Did you go looking for that fight?" "No," Marcus said immediately. "Tyler came at me. He's been coming at me all year. I finally stopped walking away." "Rolling away," his mother corrected with a slight smile, but it faded quickly. "The Brennans are talking about pressing charges. They're calling it assault." Marcus's stomach dropped. "But the videos, I know, I've seen them. Everyone's seen them. But they have money and lawyers, and they're claiming you used excessive force. That your boxing training made you a lethal weapon, or some nonsense." She reached across the table and took his hand. "I've talked to a lawyer friend from church. She says we have a strong case for self-defense, but it could get messy, expensive." "Mom, I'm sorry." "Don't." Her grip tightened. "Don't apologize for defending yourself. Ever. I just need you to understand what we might be facing." Marcus nodded, his appetite gone. He pushed his eggs around his plate, thinking about legal fees his mother couldn't afford, about court dates and depositions and the grinding machinery of a justice system that didn't always deliver justice. "There's something else," his mother said quietly. "The school board is having an emergency meeting this afternoon. About the incident. Principal Matthews called. He wants you there." "Why?" "I don't know, but we need to go, both of us." She glanced at the clock. "You should get to the gym. Coach is waiting. And Marcus, whatever happens today, whatever they try to do to you, remember who you are. Remember what you've built. They can't take that away." The gym was nearly empty at 6 a.m., just Marcus, his coach, and 2 other fighters doing early morning cardio. The space smelled like sweat, rubber, and determination, familiar scents that usually calmed Marcus. Today, they just reminded him how much he had to lose. Coach Rodriguez was in his 50s, a former professional boxer who'd transitioned to coaching adaptive athletes after his nephew was paralyzed in a motorcycle accident. He was compact and powerful, with graying hair and hands that could demonstrate perfect form even while holding a coffee cup. He was waiting in the ring when Marcus arrived. "Get up here," Coach said, not unkindly. Marcus wheeled to the modified ring entrance and transferred to his competition chair, lighter, more maneuverable, designed specifically for boxing. He rolled onto the platform and faced his coach. "That was quite a weekend you had," Coach said. "Coach, I know what you're going to say." "Do you?" Coach interrupted. "Because I'm not sure you do. What I saw in those videos was a young man with excellent form, precise striking, and exceptional ring control defending himself against an untrained opponent. Technically, it was flawless." Marcus blinked. "Then why am I here?" "Because," Coach said, his voice hardening, "boxing isn't about winning street fights. It's not about proving yourself to bullies or impressing girls or going viral on social media. It's about discipline, control, knowing when to fight and when to walk away." "I tried walking away," Marcus said, heat rising in his voice. "I've been walking away from Tyler Brennan all year. At some point, you have to stand up." "And you did. I'm not criticizing your choice to defend yourself." Coach moved closer, his expression serious. "But I need you to understand something. You're not just Marcus anymore. You're the Reaper. You're ranked. You're skilled. And with that skill comes responsibility." He pulled out his phone and showed Marcus a screenshot, a news article with the headline, "Is Wheelchair Boxing Too Dangerous? Prom Incident Raises Questions." Marcus felt sick. "There are people who want to use what happened as ammunition against adaptive sports," Coach continued. "They want to claim that training disabled athletes to fight is irresponsible, dangerous. They're trying to shut down programs like ours." "That's insane," Marcus breathed. "We're athletes. We train. We compete. How's that different from any other sport?" "It's not. But you know how people are. They see a kid in a wheelchair defending himself, and suddenly it's controversial. They want us to be inspirational and helpless, not powerful and capable of protecting ourselves." Coach paused. "Which is exactly why you need to be careful. Every move you make right now is being watched. Marcus gripped his wheel rims. So what do I do? You show them what we're really about, not the fight, the discipline, the training, the sport. Coach gestured to the ring. That school board meeting today? I'm coming with you. So are 3 other coaches from adaptive sports programs in the city. We're going to make sure they understand that what you did wasn't some violent outburst. It was self-defense from a trained athlete who showed remarkable restraint. Restraint? Marcus almost laughed. I knocked him down. Exactly. You could have done much worse. You threw 3 punches, all controlled, all precise. You incapacitated your attacker without causing serious injury. That's textbook self-defense. Coach smiled slightly. Plus, kid threw the first punch on camera. We've got receipts. Marcus felt some of the tension leave his shoulders. Thank you, Coach. Don't thank me yet. This isn't over. Coach handed Marcus a pair of gloves. Now gear up. We're doing technique drills. If you're going to be the face of wheelchair boxing, whether you like it or not, you better look sharp doing it. They trained for 90 minutes. Jabs, crosses, hooks, defensive rolls. Marcus lost himself in the rhythm of it, the familiar burn in his shoulders and arms, the satisfaction of perfect form. This was where he belonged. Not in some high school drama, but here, in the ring, doing what he'd worked so hard to master. When they finished, Coach called him over to the side of the ring. One more thing, Coach said. There's a tournament coming up in 3 weeks, state championships. You were already qualified, but given everything that's happened, I need to know, are you still in? Marcus didn't hesitate. I'm in. Good. Because winning that tournament, that's how you tell your real story. Not through some viral video, but through your performance, your dedication, your championships. Coach clapped him on the shoulder. Now go home, shower, prepare for that meeting. And Marcus, don't let them make you feel like you did something wrong. You didn't. The school board meeting was held in the district administration building, a sterile, bureaucratic space with fluorescent lights and cheap carpet that smelled like budget cuts and institutional anxiety. Marcus arrived at 4 p.m. with his mother, Coach Rodriguez, and the 3 other adaptive sports coaches who'd volunteered to speak on his behalf. The parking lot was packed. News vans lined the street. Marcus recognized several reporters from the weekend's coverage. This is bigger than I thought, his mother murmured. Inside, the meeting room was standing room only. Marcus saw students from Westside High, parents he didn't recognize, teachers, and, sitting in the front row with his parents and an expensive-looking lawyer, Tyler Brennan. Tyler's face was still slightly swollen, a faint bruise on his jaw. When he saw Marcus, his expression hardened into something cold and calculating. Jasmine was there too, sitting with several other students who'd been at prom. She caught Marcus's eye and gave him a small, encouraging nod. The school board members, 5 middle-aged people in business casual attire, sat at a raised table at the front of the room. The chairwoman, a stern-looking woman named Dr. Patricia Hendricks, called the meeting to order. We're here to discuss the incident that occurred at Westside High School's prom last Friday, Dr. Hendricks began, her voice carrying through the room. This incident has raised serious questions about student safety, appropriate conduct, and the consequences of violence on school property. Marcus felt his mother's hand squeeze his shoulder. We'll hear from several parties, Dr. Hendricks continued. First, from Mr. and Mrs. Brennan and their attorney, then from witnesses and school administration. Finally, we'll hear from Mr. Williams and his representatives. Tyler's father stood, a tall man in an immaculate suit with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. His lawyer, a woman with severe glasses and a briefcase that probably cost more than Marcus's wheelchair, stood beside him. Members of the board, Mr. Brennan began, my son was assaulted at what should have been a safe celebratory event. The young man who attacked him has extensive training in combat sports, which makes him, legally speaking, a weapon. Tyler suffered physical injuries and emotional trauma from an unprovoked attack. That's a lie, someone shouted from the crowd. Jasmine was on her feet. Tyler attacked first. We all saw it. Dr. Hendricks banged her gavel. Order. There will be time for testimony. Please sit down, Miss Robertson. Jasmine sat, but her eyes were blazing. Mr. Brennan continued, unfazed. We're asking the board to expel Mr. Williams and recommend criminal charges. We're also requesting that the district review its policy on allowing students with specialized combat training to attend school functions. Frankly, it's a liability issue. Marcus felt his blood run cold. Expulsion would destroy his academic record. Criminal charges could ruin his future. And that policy suggestion? That was aimed directly at making him and others like him feel like threats simply for being trained athletes. The lawyer added, "We have medical documentation of Tyler's injuries and psychiatric evaluation showing trauma. This wasn't a simple schoolyard scuffle. It was an assault by someone with the training and capability to cause serious harm." When they sat down, Dr. Hendricks called for witness testimony. Several students came forward, each telling slightly different versions of the same story. Most confirmed that Tyler had been antagonizing Marcus throughout the evening. All confirmed that Tyler had thrown the first punch. But the Brennans' lawyer was good. She picked apart each testimony, finding inconsistencies, suggesting that witnesses might be biased in favor of their classmate, implying that the videos didn't show the full context. Then, Principal Matthews was called. He stood at the microphone, his expression carefully neutral. "I reviewed all available footage. Mr. Brennan initiated physical contact. Mr. Williams responded with what appeared to be defensive action. However, I must note that Mr. Williams's response was remarkably effective, almost professionally so, which does raise questions about proportionality." Marcus's heart sank. Even Matthews, who'd seemed supportive at prom, was hedging. Finally, it was Marcus's turn. He wheeled to the front of the room, his mother and Coach Rodriguez flanking him. Every eye in the room was on him. Phones were out, recording. This moment would be dissected and analyzed, shared and reshared. Dr. Hendricks looked down at him. "Mr. Williams, do you have anything to say in your defense?" Marcus took a breath. In the ring, Coach always said, "Control your breathing, control the fight." "Yes," he said clearly, "I do." He pulled out his phone and connected it to the presentation screen, projecting his boxing Instagram for everyone to see. "My name is Marcus Williams. I'm a 17-year-old student at Westside High. I'm also a ranked wheelchair boxer with 7 tournament championships." He scrolled through photos, him training, him competing, him standing on podiums with medals around his neck. "I've spent the last 18 months rebuilding my life after an accident that killed my father and paralyzed me. Boxing gave me purpose. It gave me strength. It taught me discipline, control, and respect for myself and for others." He looked directly at the board members. "Tyler Brennan has bullied me all year. He's called me names, mocked my disability, tried to make me feel like I don't belong. Friday night, after I dared to attend prom, after I dared to dance with a girl who wanted to dance with me, he escalated. He got drunk. He got aggressive. And when I wouldn't back down, when I wouldn't accept his narrative that I'm less than him, he attacked me." Marcus's voice remained steady, but emotion crept in around the edges. "I threw 3 punches. 3. I could have done more. I'm trained to do more. But I didn't. I defended myself, neutralized the threat, and walked away. That's not assault. That's not excessive force. That's discipline." He gestured to Coach Rodriguez, who stepped forward. Coach Rodriguez has trained dozens of adaptive athletes. None of them have ever used their training to hurt anyone outside of sanctioned competition. "We teach control. We teach restraint. We teach that fighting is a last resort, not a first option." Coach took the microphone. "What Marcus did Friday night was textbook self-defense. He was attacked. He defended himself with minimal force. He stopped when the threat was neutralized. If anything, this incident proves how responsible our athletes are, not how dangerous." The other 3 coaches stood and moved forward, a united front. "We're here representing adaptive sports programs across the city," one of them said. "If you punish Marcus for defending himself, you're sending a message to every disabled athlete that they're not allowed to be strong, that they're not allowed to protect themselves, that they should accept abuse quietly, because fighting back makes able-bodied people uncomfortable. Do you think disabled athletes should have to accept different standards for self-defense than anyone else? Let us know what you think in the comments." The room erupted in applause. Students, parents, even some of the reporters. Dr. Hendricks banged her gavel repeatedly, calling for order. When the room finally quieted, Tyler's lawyer stood again. "This is all very moving," she said coldly, "but it doesn't change the fact that my client was injured by someone with professional-level combat training. The law recognizes that trained fighters have a higher standard of responsibility." "Then Tyler should have thought about that before attacking him," Jasmine called out, and this time half the room echoed her sentiment. Dr. Hendricks banged her gavel again. "We'll take a 15-minute recess to deliberate." The board members filed out to a back room. Marcus sat in his chair, surrounded by supporters, while the Brennans huddled with their lawyer across the room. Tyler still wouldn't look at him. "You did good, baby," Marcus's mother whispered, kissing the top of his head. The 15 minutes felt like hours. Finally, the board members returned and took their seats. Dr. Hendricks cleared her throat. "After reviewing all testimony and evidence, the board has reached a decision." She looked directly at Marcus. "Mr. Williams, we find that you acted in clear self-defense. You will face no disciplinary action." Relief flooded through Marcus like a wave. "However," Dr. Hendricks continued, turning to Tyler, "Mr. Brennan, your 3-day suspension stands. Additionally, you'll be required to complete 20 hours of community service and attend counseling sessions about appropriate conflict resolution." Mr. Brennan shot to his feet. "This is outrageous. My son was the victim here." "Your son," Dr. Hendricks interrupted sharply, "initiated an assault that was captured on multiple video recordings. He's lucky we're not recommending expulsion. As for your suggestion that we restrict students with athletic training from school events, that proposal is denied. Disability discrimination has no place in this district." The room erupted in cheers. Students were on their feet, applauding. Marcus felt his mother's arms wrap around him from behind, felt Coach Rodriguez's proud hand on his shoulder. Across the room, Tyler stood with his parents, his face red with humiliation and rage. His father was arguing furiously with the lawyer, gesturing angrily. But it was over. They'd lost. As people began filing out of the meeting room, Jasmine pushed through the crowd to reach Marcus. "You did it," she said, her smile brilliant. "You actually did it." "We did it," Marcus corrected, pulling her into a hug. "Thank you for speaking up, for being here, for everything." She kissed his cheek. "That's what you do for people you care about." Outside, news crews swarmed Marcus for statements. Coach Rodriguez handled most of it, positioning Marcus as an exemplary athlete and the victim of an unfortunate incident. But one reporter managed to get close enough to ask Marcus directly, "How does it feel to have won tonight?" Marcus thought about it, really thought about it. He thought about the fight, the fear, the uncertainty of the past 3 days. He thought about his father, who'd taught him to stand up for himself long before the accident. He thought about every hour in the gym, every punch thrown, every moment he'd refused to accept limitations others tried to place on him. "It feels," he said slowly, "like justice. Finally." The reporter smiled and thanked him. As the cameras turned away, Marcus looked back at the administration building where, through the windows, he could see Tyler and his family still arguing with their lawyer. Tyler caught his eye one last time. And in that moment, Marcus saw something shift in the other boy's expression. Not forgiveness, not friendship, but something like understanding. An acknowledgement that he'd picked the wrong fight with the wrong person. Marcus gave him a small nod, not in victory but in closure, and turned his chair toward home. Tomorrow, he'd return to school. Tomorrow, he'd face whatever came next. But tonight, he'd won. Not just the board hearing, but something bigger. He'd defended his right to exist fully, completely, powerfully in a world that constantly tried to diminish him. And that was a victory worth celebrating. 3 weeks later, Marcus stood at the edge of the ring, or rather, sat at the edge, his competition chair locked into position, gloves laced tight. His focus narrowed to a single point: victory. The state wheelchair boxing championships were held in a converted warehouse downtown, the kind of space that smelled like decades of sweat, dreams, and determination. Bright overhead lights illuminated 3 regulation rings, each surrounded by crowds of athletes, coaches, family members, and scouts. The air hummed with pre-fight energy, that electric mix of nerves and anticipation that Marcus had learned to feed on. His mother sat in the third row, wearing a shirt she'd made that said, "Reaper's Mom," in glittery letters. Beside her sat Jasmine, who'd driven down with Dante and a handful of other students from Westside High, kids who'd become genuine friends in the weeks since prom, drawn not by viral fame but by actual connection. Coach Rodriguez stood beside Marcus, his weathered hands resting on the chair's frame. "You ready?" Coach asked quietly. Marcus rolled his shoulders, feeling the familiar burn of warmed-up muscles. "I'm ready. Remember, this isn't about proving anything to anyone anymore. You already did that. This is about you and your opponent. This is about the sport, the craft." Coach leaned down, his voice dropping. "This is about becoming champion." Marcus nodded. He'd spent the last 3 weeks training harder than ever, channeling everything, the fight, the hearing, the media circus, into preparation. Every morning at 5:30 a.m. he'd been in the gym. Every evening after school, more drills. His body was a finely tuned instrument, his mind sharp as broken glass. The prom incident had faded from the news cycle, replaced by newer controversies and fresher dramas. Tyler had returned to school after his suspension, subdued and notably quieter. They didn't speak. There was nothing left to say. But the antagonism had died. Tyler had learned his lesson. Marcus had moved on. But the incident had changed things in ways Marcus was still discovering. His Instagram following had settled at around 20,000, a mix of boxing fans, disability advocates, and kids who saw him as proof that you could rebuild yourself after tragedy. He'd been invited to speak at 2 middle schools about adaptive sports. A documentary filmmaker had reached out about profiling young wheelchair boxers. Most surprisingly, the athletic department at Westside High had started an adaptive sports club, with Marcus as the founding member and Jasmine as president. They met twice a week, introducing students with various disabilities to wheelchair basketball, tennis, track, and yes, boxing. What had started as Marcus fighting for his right to exist had somehow transformed into creating space for others like him. But right now, none of that mattered. Right now, there was only the ring, his opponent, and the next 6 minutes that would determine whether he'd leave here as a state champion. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer's voice boomed through the speakers, "our next bout is the middleweight championship. In the blue corner from Riverside Adaptive Sports with a record of 12-2, please welcome Deshaun Rivers." Polite applause. Marcus watched his opponent wheel into the ring, a kid about his age, maybe a year older, with thick shoulders and a confident set to his jaw. Marcus had watched Deshaun's earlier fights. He was good, aggressive, powerful. This wouldn't be easy. And in the red corner from Metro City Boxing Club, with a record of 15-3, the third-ranked middleweight in the state, Marcus the Reaper Williams. The crowd erupted. Marcus wheeled into the ring, raising his gloves to acknowledge the cheers. He could hear his mother screaming his name, could hear Jasmine and Dante and the others from Westside, could hear Coach Rodriguez's steady, grounding voice beneath it all. Focus, breathe, fight your fight. The referee, a former Paralympic athlete herself, called them to center ring for final instructions. Marcus and Deshaun touched gloves, a moment of respect between warriors. "Keep it clean, keep it controlled," the referee said. 3 2-minute rounds, protect yourself at all times, touch gloves and come out fighting. They touched gloves again. The referee stepped back. The bell rang. Deshaun came out aggressive, just like Marcus expected, heavy jabs testing Marcus's defense, looking for openings. Marcus kept his guard tight, rolling with the punches, letting Deshaun expend energy while Marcus read his patterns. 30 seconds in, Marcus saw it. Deshaun dropped his right hand slightly after throwing a jab, leaving his ribs exposed for a fraction of a second. Marcus filed that information away. 1 minute in, Deshaun connected with a solid cross that snapped Marcus's head back. The crowd gasped. Marcus tasted copper, had bitten his lip, but the pain just sharpened his focus. He returned fire with a combination, jab, jab, hook, that made Deshaun wheel backward. Round 1 ended with both fighters breathing hard, neither having a clear advantage. "You're doing good," Coach said during the break, giving Marcus water. "But you're being too defensive. He's controlling the pace. You need to take it from him. Be the Reaper." Marcus nodded, spitting water into a bucket. His shoulders burned, but it was a good burn. Familiar. Round 2. This time, Marcus came out aggressive. He wheeled forward using his chair's maneuverability to create angles, forcing Deshaun to constantly adjust. Marcus threw combinations, left hook to the body, right cross to the head, another hook. Deshaun blocked most of them, but Marcus was landing enough to score points, enough to control the pace. Then, Deshaun caught him with an uppercut that came from nowhere, a perfect shot that lifted Marcus slightly in his chair and made the world go white for a second. The crowd roared. Marcus shook his head, clearing it. He could hear Coach shouting something, could hear his mother's worried voice. But underneath all of it, he could hear his own heartbeat, steady and strong. He'd been hit harder than this. He'd survived worse than this. Deshaun came in for the finish, sensing blood in the water. But Marcus wasn't done. As Deshaun wheeled forward, Marcus rolled right and countered with that body shot he'd been saving. A devastating hook to the ribs, right where Deshaun's guard dropped. Deshaun's breath left him in a whoosh, his arms lowered reflexively, protecting his ribs. And Marcus took the opening. A perfect right cross, thrown with every ounce of strength and technique Marcus had spent 18 months building. It connected with Deshaun's jaw with a crack that echoed through the warehouse. Deshaun's eyes rolled back, his arms dropped. The referee stepped in immediately, checking him. "He's out," the referee called, waving her arms. "Technical knockout. Williams wins." The warehouse exploded with noise. Marcus sat in his chair, chest heaving, gloves still raised, unable to fully process what had just happened. He'd won. He'd actually won. Coach Rodriguez was in the ring in seconds, wrapping Marcus in a fierce hug, shouting something Marcus couldn't hear over the roar of the crowd. The referee raised Marcus's arm in victory. Cameras flashed. People were chanting his name. In the third row, his mother was crying. Those good tears, the kind that came from watching your child overcome everything the world threw at them and still come out victorious. Jasmine was on her feet, screaming and clapping. Dante was jumping up and down like he'd won the fight himself. The official photographer called Marcus to the center of the ring for the championship photo. They placed a gold medal around his neck, heavy and real and earned. They handed him a trophy that was almost too big to balance on his lap. The state championship belt went around his waist. Marcus looked up at the lights, at the crowd, at his mother and friends and coach, and felt something settle deep in his chest. Not satisfaction, something bigger than that. Completion. Vindication. Proof. Proof that he wasn't just a wheelchair, wasn't just a tragedy or an inspiration or a viral video. He was an athlete, a champion, someone who'd taken the worst thing that ever happened to him and transformed it into something powerful and beautiful. After the medal ceremony, after the interviews and the photos and the congratulations from other fighters, Marcus finally made it back to his corner where his mother was waiting. She didn't say anything at first, just held him while he sat in his chair, her tears falling into his hair like blessings. "Dad would be proud," Marcus said quietly. "Baby, he's so proud right now," she whispered back. "And so am I. So proud." Jasmine appeared beside them, her eyes shining. "State champion," she said, running her fingers gently over the medal. "That's my boyfriend." Marcus grinned, the first time she'd used that word, and it felt right, natural. Like everything else about the past few weeks, it was real in a way he'd stopped believing things could be real. "Want to get out of here?" Jasmine asked. "We're all going to Mario's for pizza. Champion celebration." "Give me 10 minutes to change," Marcus said, "and someone's going to have to help me carry all this hardware." Mario's Pizza was a hole-in-the-wall place near campus that had been serving students for 3 decades. The owners, an elderly Italian couple, knew Marcus from his regular post-training pizza runs with Coach. When he wheeled in wearing his medal and carrying his trophy, they erupted in rapid Italian and immediately declared that dinner was on the house. The corner booth was packed. Marcus, his mother, Jasmine, Dante, Coach Rodriguez, and 6 other students from Westside who'd made the trip. They ordered half the menu, laughing and talking over each other, rehashing the fight moment by moment. "That uppercut he hit you with," Dante said through a mouthful of pepperoni. "I thought you were done, man. I was about to cry." "Had a moment where I thought I was done too," Marcus admitted. "But then I remembered, I've been through worse. A punch? That's nothing compared to losing my dad, compared to learning to live in this chair. If I can survive that, I can survive anything." His mother squeezed his hand across the table. "So what's next?" Jasmine asked. "Nationals?" "Nationals," Marcus confirmed. "They're in August in Colorado. If I place top 3, I could qualify for the junior national team, maybe even get scholarship offers for college programs." "College programs for wheelchair boxing?" one of the students asked, genuinely curious. "Not specifically boxing," Marcus explained, "but adaptive sports programs, physical education, sports medicine. There are schools that actively recruit disabled athletes now. It's a whole world most people don't know exists." "Well, they know now," Dante said, holding up his phone. "Bro, you're trending again. Someone posted your knockout and it's already got like 2 million views." Marcus groaned. "I'm never escaping the internet, am I?" "Would you want to?" Jasmine asked seriously. "Think about what you're doing. Every time someone sees you compete, sees you win, it changes their idea of what's possible. When I talk to the kids in our adaptive sports club, do you know what they say? They say they didn't know they could do things like this until they saw you." Marcus sat with that for a moment. He'd spent so long fighting to be seen as normal, to not be reduced to inspiration porn, that he'd forgotten there was a difference between being someone's inspiration and being proof of what's possible. "I guess when you put it that way," he said slowly, "maybe going viral isn't the worst thing." "Just don't let it go to your head," Coach Rodriguez interjected. "You're still showing up Monday at 5:30 a.m. for training. Champions don't take days off." "Yes, Coach," Marcus said, grinning. They stayed at Mario's until closing, until the old couple started gently shooing them out with leftover breadsticks and well wishes. Outside, the spring night was cool and clear, stars visible despite the city lights. Marcus's mother headed home to get ready for her night shift at the hospital. Coach Rodriguez left with the other students, promising to send Marcus the training schedule for Nationals prep. That left Marcus, Jasmine, and Dante standing in the parking lot, the trophy balanced on Marcus's lap, the medal still around his neck. "This was a good day," Dante said, looking between his two friends. "Like, a really, really good day. I'm going to remember this one." "Me too," Marcus agreed. Dante gave them both fist bumps and headed to his car, leaving Marcus and Jasmine alone under the streetlights. "Want to take a walk?" Jasmine asked, then laughed at herself. "Sorry, wanna take a roll?" "I'd love to take a roll," Marcus said, and they headed down the sidewalk together, moving slowly, enjoying the night. They didn't talk for a while, just existed together in comfortable silence. Eventually, they reached a small park with a fountain in the center, water lit from below in shifting colors. Jasmine sat on the edge of the fountain, and Marcus positioned his chair beside her. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Always." "Do you ever wish things were different? Like, do you ever wish the accident never happened?" Marcus considered this. It was a question he had asked himself 1,000 times, especially in the beginning. "I used to," he said honestly. "Every day. I'd wake up and wish I could go back to before. Before the crash, before my dad died, before everything changed. And now? Now? I don't know. I'd give anything to have my dad back. That part never gets easier. But the rest of it?" He gestured to his chair, to himself. "This is who I am now. And I kind of like who I've become. I'm stronger than I was, more focused. I know what matters and what doesn't. And I met you, which definitely wouldn't have happened if I was still the kid I was before." "Why not?" Jasmine asked. "Because that kid was kind of a mess, unfocused, taking everything for granted. I needed to be broken down to figure out who I really was." Marcus looked at his medal, at the trophy. "I'm not grateful for the accident, but I'm grateful for who I became because of it." Jasmine leaned over and kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. When she pulled back, she was smiling. "You know what I love about you?" she asked. "What?" "You're the most honest person I've ever met. You don't pretend things are easy when they're hard. You don't pretend you're fine when you're not. But you also don't let the hard things stop you. You just push through. And that's incredible." Marcus felt his chest tighten with emotion. "I had good teachers, my dad, my mom, Coach. They taught me that you don't quit, you don't give up. You find a way forward even when the path is impossible." They sat there for another hour, talking about nationals, about college, about dreams and plans and possibilities, about the adaptive sports club and how they wanted to expand it, about Jasmine's plans to study physical therapy so she could work with disabled athletes, about Marcus's idea of becoming a coach someday, helping other kids like him discover what they're capable of. Eventually, Jasmine's phone buzzed with a text from her mom asking when she'd be home. "I should go," she said reluctantly. "Yeah, me too. Early training tomorrow." They made their way back to the parking lot where Jasmine's car was parked next to his mom's van. Before she got in, she turned back to Marcus one more time. "Hey, champion? Yeah? I'm really glad you came to prom that night, even with all the Tyler drama, even with everything that happened. I'm glad you didn't let fear keep you home." "Me too," Marcus said. "Best decision I ever made." She blew him a kiss and drove away, her taillights disappearing into the night. Marcus sat in the parking lot for a few more minutes, alone with his thoughts and his trophy and his medal. He pulled out his phone and opened his photos, scrolling back to prom night, to the picture booth photo of him and Jasmine laughing, to the blurry shots his mom had taken before he left the house, to screenshots of the viral videos that had started everything. Then he scrolled further back, to pictures of his father, the two of them at Marcus's 8th grade graduation, at a basketball game before the accident. In the hospital room, the day Marcus was born, his dad holding tiny newborn Marcus with an expression of pure wonder. "I did it, Dad," Marcus whispered to the photo. "I'm state champion, and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to make you proud." A breeze kicked up, warm despite the hour, and Marcus could almost feel his father's presence, not sad or grieving, but proud. So proud. He locked his phone and started his wheelchair's motor, heading toward home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, more training, more school, more work toward nationals. But tonight, he could rest in the knowledge that he'd achieved something real, something that couldn't be taken away. He was Marcus Williams, the Reaper, state champion, and he was just getting started. Epilogue. 6 months later, Marcus stood on the podium at the Junior National Championships in Colorado Springs, a bronze medal around his neck and a spot on the junior national team secured. A year after that, he signed a letter of intent to attend State University on a full scholarship for their adaptive sports program, the first wheelchair boxer in school history to receive such an offer. 2 years after that, he opened his own gym with Coach Rodriguez, a training facility specifically for adaptive athletes, where kids who'd been told they couldn't or shouldn't could learn that they could and they would. And 5 years after that, he stood in a different ring, not as a fighter, but as a coach, watching one of his students, a 13-year-old girl who'd been paralyzed in a swimming accident, win her first tournament. He watched her wheel out of the ring with her medal. Her parents crying with pride, her face shining with the same realization he'd had all those years ago. That being broken down didn't mean staying broken. It meant you got to rebuild yourself into something stronger. Marcus looked up at the stands where Jasmine sat, now his fiancée, about to finish her doctorate in physical therapy, and felt gratitude wash over him. Life hadn't given him the story he'd planned. It had given him something harder, messier, more complicated. But it had also given him purpose, community, love, victory, and in the end, that was more than enough. So tell us, what's something hard you've overcome that made you stronger? What challenge broke you down but helped you rebuild into who you are today? Share your story in the comments below. Your journey might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to keep going. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.